2022 has been a year, hasn't it? I mean, nothing really important happened, right? Cody Rhodes walked in, Sasha and Naomi walked out, Vince being accused of stuff, then retiring. Triple H is not owning the game, but a boss in said game. A forbidden door was kicked down. Some guy imitating part of my name said some words at a media scrum. His boss next to him is likely confused. There was an all-out, a brawl-out, and a muffin being eaten, and a partridge in a pear tree. See? Nothing important really happened, right? No! But real talk, it's been a crazy year for many reasons. So predictions that seem like a sure thing might turn into something entirely wild. So here's 10 plus 5 AEW and WWE predictions for 2023 in no particular order, and apologies for not doing separate WWE and AEW lists. There will be another video coming out real soon with actual wild predictions, so look out for that, and like and subscribe, please and thanks. Also, there's many other predictions that I could have mentioned, and we've got quite a few to cover here, so I won't go into detail and I won't go into depth, but these may or may not turn up on another video in the future. But here's some honourable mentions. Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite will break up. Jericho Appreciation Society implode also. Dominic Mysterio will win a title and or beat his dad to take over his legacy, possibly taking over Rey Mysterio's mask. Brock Lesnar will fight Daniel Cormier. There will be more inter-promotional crossovers like Carl Anderson wrestling recently in New Japan. The Judgment Day will split up. Eddie Kingston will win a title. Please, God, please. There's so much more I could say, but I'll be here forever. On to the list. Number 15. Roman no longer reigns because of Cody Rhodes. Roman Reigns will lose his title or titles to Cody Rhodes. Obviously, Roman will lose the belts eventually, and I thought about this being the prediction, but that feels too basic, and if he wins at Mania, it could go either way. He could hold the belts all year. Cody has made it clear he's back in WWE for the top straps. He's doing it for his father, tears and all. There was always talk of him possibly being the guy to take the belt off Roman. Now, I have another video coming out with another wilder prediction regarding this, but we don't know when he could take the belts off him. But we'll see. Maybe at WrestleMania? Number 14. 2023, the year of MJF. MJF holds the title for all of 2023. Just a side note, this script was written before this week's wrestling programming and before last weekend's New Japan Wrestle Kingdom. I'll likely mention this quite a bit in the video, but nevertheless, I have tried to make some amendments to some of the predictions before releasing this video. It wasn't a surprise to many people that MJF beat Jon Moxley for the AEW Championship at All Out, but what most people are starting to believe, myself included, is that he will hold the belt for the whole of this year, or at least nearing the end of it. I mentioned my upcoming video about wild predictions similar to this list, and the only reason why I haven't added this to that list is this isn't as unlikely as we think. Think about it. MJF, the pariah of AEW, who will be the central figure of the bidding war of 2024. Everyone who loves AEW tries their hardest to take the belt off so he cannot use it as a bargaining chip or leave the promotion with the belt. Start off with quote unquote easy challengers. Already faced Ricky Starks, and as we near the end of the year, he fights the more dangerous stars, you know, your Kenny Omegas, your Hangman Pages, your Bryan Danielsons. The story pretty much writes itself. Whether or not they do a Brian Pillman and make it seem like he's left the company as champ, or take it off him just before his deal seemingly expires, it's gonna make for interesting television. The bidding war of 2024 is looking spicy, I'm not gonna lie. Number 13, RK Bro to RK No. Randy Orton will turn heel on Matt Riddle. Now this one could go either way. Randy being better as a heel, Riddle being in WWE and wrestling, losing matches, giving RK Bro a bad name and doing Randy's signature moves could allow Randy to come back and give him the RKO from out of nowhere. Riddle had momentum with RK Bro, which kind of shifted when Orton got injured, so this will likely revitalize him. Just imagine though, if Riddle turned on Randy Orton. Maybe for leaving him high and dry when he got injured, I don't know. But that would be good to see, I must say. Nevertheless, if Riddle is back from rehab and Randy from injury in time, I see this being a WrestleMania program. But the act still has potential, so if not WrestleMania, then definitely at some point this year, Randy Orton will turn heel on Matt Riddle. Number 12, you can't do it yourself in the tag division. DIY will reform and win the tag titles. Hands up if you enjoyed Gargano's return so far. Now, hands up if you truly believe he's had a good return so far. See, I cannot tell a person what they do and don't enjoy, but if you believe that Johnny Wrestling has had a great or even a good return to WWE, I believe you're truly mistaken, my friend. I'd say it's been passable at best. And if we're being honest, Gargano's return has kind of felt like it's gone over like a wet fart. And pairing Ciampa with The Miz just felt odd. He's only really felt credible when he won the #1 contenders match for the US title. And then during that match he had with Bobby Lashley, even though he was never going to win it. What better way to revitalize both men than to reform DIY and tear through the tag division and eventually win the belts from whoever the champs are at that time. They could have classic matches with the Usos, the New Day, Street Profits, Judgment Day as well, who I also think may hold tag belts this year. And with Triple H at the helm, don't be surprised if they get back together and go on a run like they did at NXT, before Ciampa inevitably turned on Gargano again. Number 11, another wrestling war? More stars will defect from AEW to WWE. So one thing that I haven't said is I'm doing this list without checking any contract information or anything in that nature. So I have no idea who becomes a free agent or when. And this entry applies to all wrestlers, but it's more specifically catered to stars who have already left WWE, like your Miros, your Andrades, your Cesaros, etc. And we've also got to bear in mind that Regal has gone back to WWE, so he can easily, I say easily, he can bring people back from AEW into WWE with his own connections. Now that WWE seems to be a more harmonious place to work and some AEW stars are disgruntled, people may start to jump ship. We've had some small scale ones like wrestlers who came from the indies and only had a handful of matches in AEW but were never all elite jump over to WWE. However, this to me is more like a tryout. They were having matches on AEW Dark and AEW Elevation, but WWE offered them an actual contract. And no one who were in AEW for a length of time has made that jump, it would seem. Although there was one high profile neck tattooed Highlander type American who I've been informed is somewhat of a nightmare. Wrestlers like Miro, Andrade and Brian Cage have all expressed their displeasure on how they've been booked in AEW. Hell, I even saw rumours of CJ Perry recently, Miro's wife, possibly wanting to try and get Miro fired. But what if people like Wheeler Yuta or even Bryan Danielson followed Regal to WWE, as he's likely to have a backstage and possible scouting role? What if Sammy Guevara, people from Nightmare Factory or even MJF go to WWE to join Cody. Nothing is in the realm of impossibility right now, and although I have given a specific set of wrestlers, I do think there will be a few wrestlers that will either defect from AEW or turn down the chance to join them in order to join WWE. Number 10. No revival for the Acclaimed. FTR will take the tag belts from the Acclaimed or leave AEW. I've put this as a two-way because I have no idea how this is going to go. They could leave to take a break possibly, but FTR could also leave due to bad booking. They've already had a match with the Acclaimed for the belts interfered by the Ass Boys. But I don't think it's the end of the story or what could become of their feud with the Acclaimed. So once they're done with the guns, or whatever it is they're doing with the guns, at some point I do believe they will challenge the Acclaimed again and eventually take the belts. I'm not sure where all the tag teams have gone in AEW, especially since the trio titles have turned up, but that makes me think unless a new team debuts, no one will dethrone the walking rapping controversy and his town yelling underrated tag partner until FTR are ready to challenge again. Alternatively, FTR will go on the break they've spoken about and therefore won't get the belts. But I wouldn't even be shocked if they took this break, came back before the year is out and still won the belts. Whether the Acclaimed are still champs, if that happens, remains to be seen. Unless it's not a break and they leave due to bad booking. But if they challenge the Acclaimed for the belts again, there will be no scissoring on that day. And I kinda wish I didn't say that. Let's move on quick. Number 9. House of Belts. House of Black will win the trios titles. From the tag belts to the trios belts. And possibly the safest prediction on this list, House of Black will win the trios belts. I'm pretty confident in that one, to be honest. I could narrow it down and say from the Elite, but as AEW seem pretty hot and cold with House of Black, I'll keep it vague and just say they could win it from anyone. It's even possible for one of them to go on a singles one and get singles gold, and the other two go for the tag belts, but they do deserve the trios belts. The faction deserve titles. The faction is cool, can be dominant, have great matches, and could be a way to keep Mr. Black sweet so he doesn't think about going back to the big dub where his wife is. Or he could just go on hiatus again. But honestly, House of Black for the trios titles. Please and thanks. Number 8. Strickland swerves his way into a title. Swerve Strickland will win a singles belt. If I'm honest, this is just something that I want to see. But let's be real here, it should happen. Once his feud with Keith Lee is done, he should be moving on to bigger and better things, and that should be with at least a TNT title win. To be honest, so should Keith Lee, but I could only choose one. And one of them could even go for the Atlantic title whilst the other one goes for the TNT title, but who's to say? Although I don't know where this feud is going right now, as it looks like Keith Lee has been written off TV with the double foot stomp on the cinder block that Swerve gave to him. So maybe that frees up Swerve to get some wins before Keith Lee's return. But initially I did write this script before Dynamite, and I wrote it as if to say Darby possibly becomes champ again, and then those two could possibly have a proper feud which could result in Swerve winning the belt. Well, surprise surprise, again Darby won the belt back on Dynamite, and like I said before, I wrote this script before that happened. So Swerve could easily go for that belt when either after his feud with Keith Lee is finished, or even before Keith Lee comes back and they feud over it. Either way, it could really be epic, and Swerve should end up with the TNT title before this year is over. Number 7. Saraya turns the page to a title win. Saraya will win the women's belt. I love Saraya. From NXT to when she came up and beat AJ Lee for the title, she's great. I also love Jamie Hayter. Maybe it's a British thing, So seeing hard-hitting, super over Jamie Hayter win the title, which according to rumors was not the plan, was amazing. I was so happy for her. I was even more happy seeing their fantastic Paige, aka Saraya, return to active competition and being able to get physical, take a bump and actually wrestle. Not unless they make her go into the TNT title scene and even dethrone Jade Cargill. More on her in a sec. I can easily see Saraya winning the women's belt. Now, I'm not saying she will beat Hayter. Hayter could have some defenses before Britt eventually turns on her. Honestly, don't know why they're still together at this point after all the teases that they've had. But Britt can win the belt there before Saraya takes it off her. Or an all British affair and Saraya wins. Either way, I reckon Saraya's going to win the title before the year is over. Number 6. 50 is the magic number for Jade. Jade Cargill will get to 50 wins before she takes her first loss. AEW have made Jade Cargill a big deal. She's unbeaten now in 48 matches. Now, please note, this script was written before AEW Dynamite aired, and there could be many predictions, including this one, already en route to happening or being chucked out. But I rewrote this part specifically after she defeated Sky Blue. But the fact is, she's being presented as a big deal, and that means one of two things. Whoever beats her will likely become a big deal, or it's going to take a big deal to beat her. And I am 99.99% sure that that L will not take place until she gets to 50 wins. Maybe it's a Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, but I think that's looking pretty unlikely now. Naomi, as her contract situation is still up in the air. Or even Saraya, based off the last entry. We can flip it and say Saraya doesn't win the women's title, but she wins the TNT belt off Jade. She is a big enough deal to do so. Personally, I'm not sure how many more wins she will get after her 50th before taking that first L, but make sure you check out my next video for a follow up to this one. It's a spoiler, as I do have an idea of who her first loss will be against. Anyway, speaking of first losses, segue. Number 5, Hook to get hooked. Hook will take his first loss. Like Cargill, he has been presented as an unstoppable force, this new star having an invincible rookie run. But like Cargill, I also feel like Hook's going to take his first loss this year. He's going up against a few more credible opponents. Okay. These wrestlers aside, he actually beat a few opponents who were quite good, like QT Marshall, Ricky Starks for the FTW belt, and recently defended and retained his belt against Lee Moriarty. And I believe he will have more credible opponents, and one of them will eventually beat him. Personally, I don't think this should happen until he gets the title, a recognized title, and someone beats him to take that belt off him, unless it's to lose the FTW belt. But like Jade Cargill, it's gonna take a big deal or make a big deal of somebody when Hook finally loses. But now let's get on to the meaty one. Number 4, best buddies to beat brothers and best bloodline. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens to beat the Usos for the tag titles. Maybe I should have put this entry and Roman Reigns entry together. I was actually going to initially, but the bloodline is arguably the best thing on WWE right now. Sami Zayn is arguably the most over thing in both the bloodline and in WWE right now. He's basically a babyface in a heel faction, the dork in a cool group that everyone wants to succeed. And now we've got KO, who's turned back into being a badass, and an anti-hero who cares about continuity. He reignites his beef with Roman and the bloodline, reminding everyone of what happened the last time they had a title match. And also he reminds Roman that he owes him for when he softened up Drew McIntyre. At this point, it feels inevitable that the bloodline are going to turn on Sami Zayn at some point. God knows who will initiate the turn. Got a feeling it's going to be Jimmy. And as much as I would love Sami or KO, but mainly Sami due to the Bloodline storyline, to beat Roman for the belts. I reckon KO teams with Sami and beats the Usos for the titles. WWE are usually pretty rigid with their plans, and I'm not too sure what those plans are with this, but can't lie though, would be nice if one of them could become a double champion. Number 3. No FOURPEAT in this freaking feud. Seth freaking Rollins to beat Cody Rhodes for the world title. See Roman lose his title entry and continue story here. Cody may not beat Roman for the title, but I do think he wins the belts this year. And before this year is out, Seth will beat Cody to win the belt. He's not beaten Cody yet after 3 attempts. He's lost to a handicapped American Nightmare, which he's still probably having nightmares about, like he sleeps with a Darkrai polka doll. But their feud was not for the title. So unless they make Seth win it first and Cody takes it off him, which would be peak to allow him to lose to Cody again, I think Cody wins it, and before the year is out, maybe SummerSlam, maybe whatever premium live event is in place where Hell in a Cell used to be, so it comes around full calendar circle from their last match, I reckon Seth takes it off him then. Or not, what the hell do I know. Number 2. The baddest bitch or the opportunity to BEST the EST. Bianca Belair will lose her belt to either Charlotte or Ronda Rousey. Charlotte wins, lol. There's 3 women along with Becky Lynch who are easily the strongest booked women in the division, so really it could go either way with all of these 4 women. Could even get another Charlotte Ronda Mania match, but Ronda is heavily protected and Charlotte as well. Charlotte. It's funny that I saw a prediction video from another wrestling YouTube channel saying Charlotte would come back this year and win the belt immediately, and it happened before 2022 was even finished. As funny as that is though, in a way it helps or hinders this prediction depending on how you look at it. For context, the original plan was for Ronda to face Rousey at Mania in 2022, which is what we got. Then Ronda was supposed to face Becky Lynch at Mania 2023, but according to Uncle Dave Meltzer, Ronda Becky is now off. Also, Ronda has recently said she would like to go into tag wrestling, and she's been linked with Shayna Baszler on SmackDown quite recently. I don't know if you've noticed, but it kinda looks like she's phoned it in just a bit during this second run that she's been having. However, she's not SmackDown Women's Champion anymore, Charlotte is. So it's very possible the Big E, no pun intended, love you Big E, might change plans and put Ronda in a feud with Belair en route to WrestleMania and might just take the belt off her. It really wouldn't shock me. It would annoy me, just like SummerSlam that one time where Bianca never should have lost, but it would be a little surprising given that we've seen no rumours of this. And as for Charlotte, we saw Roman unify or at least win both singles titles, and now she has one of the women's titles and is possibly the female John Cena or Roman Reigns. So don't be perplexed if you see WWE put these 2 against one another for both titles and then, you know, Charlotte wins, lol. And number 1, Vince is on board. Vince McMahon will rejoin WWE in some way. Again, not in my wild predictions, as I had a wilder one connected to this in my new video coming up, but this in itself does seem pretty wild. Or it did not long ago. I guess I'm cheating a bit here, because I named this entry Vince is on board, because as of me editing this, Vince is now back on the board of directors. Another prediction that I made before all this news in the wrestling world messed everything up. But Vince had gone on record by saying he was given bad advice by stepping down, and if he hadn't, everything happening at the time would have blown over. Well, there looks to be more allegations, so I'm not too sure about that one, Vince. But I guess this one wasn't too much of a prediction in hindsight. So many people were shocked when he stepped down, and lots of people thought that someday he would return. Because most of us know when Vince wants something, he is like a dog with a bone. I mean, here's a picture of Vince with a chain in his mouth. So who is to say? These predictions I tried to not make too wild and have a possibility of happening. But this one was a mystery like Evolution or Who Threw the Pie at KO until he returned and ruined it. Thanks, Vince. Now, leave creative to Triple H and don't touch Raw or SmackDown, and don't actually inject your company with a lethal dose of poison like that time you brought in the NWO. We good? Okay? Cool. And that's the list. I have more predictions, some basic, some not so much, but I couldn't get them all on the list. So if you want another one, leave a comment down below, and as said before, like and subscribe, and if I get enough likes, I'll drop another one. I wrote this script before the wrestling world decided to change on me, and you'll see the same thing happen in my upcoming video. Not too sure I mentioned it, or maybe I did know I mentioned it, but I was scared that you wasn't paying attention. But this will have wilder predictions, so keep an eye out for that. Check out my socials in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in a bit.